What is up, boys? It is Ron. Welcome back to Never Lucky Fantasy Football. In this video, we're going to be doing 10 of my favorite late round dart throws. These are players with a lot of upside. I like to go into my drafts making sure I have a list of players with upside, man. I don't want to be panicking in my drafts, not knowing who to take. I want to make sure I have these guys pre-selected. Now, last year, I used this same process, and I was able to draft guys like Darnell Mooney, like Rashad Bateman, Bucky Irving, Ray Davis, and Rico Dowdle. I'm not an oracle. I'm not saying I'm like, some sharp. All I did was use a pretty simple process. I took expert ADP, things like FFPC, like NFC, and like underdog expert rankings, and I compared them to our home leagues, right? Like ESPN, Sleeper, and those types of things. I just found the disparity, found where they're drafting guys earlier, and how we can improve on that. I want to help you guys like dominate those home leagues, right? That's the whole point of this channel. So let's strap in, man. Let's get in this video, and we're going to start with Kyle Williams, currently going in the 12th round. He's the wide receiver for the New England Patriots. Here's his profile. He's an exciting young wide receiver who was very productive in college, had a lot of yards after the catch and speed, and he had a lot of big play potential. And the New England Patriots go out and draft this guy. They signed Stephon Diggs, who's coming off an ACL injury. He's like 83 to 108 years old. I don't really know how old he is. And he recently in camp just yesterday, it's currently August 2nd, so I think on the 1st or on the 30th of July, he had a 2-touchdown day in camp from Drake May. So there's a lot of chemistry being built. Kyle Williams is a phenomenal yards after the catch guy. And in terms of the depth chart, I already mentioned Stephon Diggs. Kayshon Boutte, who is pretty much butt cheeks. He's not a really good wide receiver. You have Jalen Polk. Jury's still out, but I think he's butt cheeks. There's a verdict of butt cheeks pending. And then Demario Douglas, who's not horrible. He's just like a nice little slot receiver. Right? He's like a Wan'Dale Robinson. He's going to get a lot of targets potentially, mostly short stuff. This team's looking for a dude with big play potential, and I think it's going to be Kyle Williams. In the 12th round, I think it's a very fair value. Now, the next name on this list is going to be Cedric Tillman, going in the 13th round or so, give or take. Cedric Tillman really showed a lot of potential last season. When the team traded Amari Cooper away, Cedric Tillman stepped into that like deep, X receiver, deep threat kind of guy. And he actually played really well, bro. 18, 28, and 19 fantasy points. And then after the bye, he only gets 7 fantasy points, but then he gets a concussion. He's out for the rest of the season. Now, this season, they don't really add much. They essentially add Deontay Johnson. He's the only extra addition to this wide receiver room. And Deontay Johnson, bro, any given moment, he's going to throw his helmet at like a fucking ball boy and then, get cut from the team. So I'm expecting this team to honestly be Jerry Jeudy and Njoku as like the primary 1 and 2 option, with Cedric Tillman potentially threatening both Njoku and Jeudy, bro. I can see a situation where Tillman is the bigger threat, right? I can see it. I don't think it's not a huge chance for that happening, but it's non-zero. I think there's a small chance. And if you're getting like the 3rd or 2nd option on a team like the Browns, who are just going to be bad. They're going to be a bad team. They're not going to be able to run the ball. They're going to be playing from behind. They're going to be throwing the ball a lot this season. They just need to figure out that quarterback situation. But I love Cedric Tillman in the 13th round, which brings us to the 16th round, the next player, which is Jaylin Noel. Jaylin Noel is a rookie wide receiver who was drafted by the Texans this year. Now let's paint the picture. Joe Mixon is already dealing with some bad injuries from like previous injuries. Nick Chubb might be cooked. We just don't know. According to reports in training camp, he kind of looks like he's like the 3rd or 4th best running back on this depth chart. That's not great news, right? The Texans O-line, they're literally ranked 32nd in the NFL. This is based on consensus rankings from a bunch of different publications and people who rank O-lines. I researched them, I gathered them, and I took a consensus from all of them. You guys can actually grab that from my Patreon for free, just an offensive line report. And they're the worst O-line. They're not going to be able to run the ball, man. They're going to have to throw the ball. CJ Stroud is a good quarterback. I know he had kind of like a second-year slump, but he's a good, competent quarterback that can make any throw needed. Nico Collins is the clear lead wide receiver, but that number 2 spot is kind of up for grabs. We're kind of expecting it to be maybe Jaden Higgins, the other rookie wide receiver who was drafted. He was drafted a round earlier than Jaylin Noel. Or we're expecting a 28-year-old Christian Kirk coming off a broken collarbone. I don't know. I think there is some opportunity for someone to step into that wide receiver 2 role. I think it could definitely be Jaylin Noel. In the 16th round, he's just so free. And, Higgins, I love him. He's more of like a traditional wide receiver archetype, while Jaylin Noel is more of that Josh Downs, speedy slot, someone that can break the top off the defense and extend plays. So I really like Jaylin Noel, man. I think he has a nice profile. He was charted very well by a lot of like dynasty rookie wide receiver experts. They all really were high on Jaylin Noel, and the fact that the Texans got them after Higgins is just, I think it's good news for the Texans passing game in general. And now we move on to the last wide receiver on this list. You're getting this guy in like the 20th plus round. Now, Elijah Moore, wide receiver for the Buffalo Bills. A lot of you guys might not even know that he's even on the Bills, but he is a very talented wide receiver. He's on a very good offense. They're expected to be like the number 2 scoring offense, or even number 1, I think. And according to beat writers, it looks like he's like the 4th wide receiver in the depth chart. So he's moving his way up. He's been dealing with a leg injury so far, and it's still the beginning of training camp, so he has a lot of time to kind of move up the depth chart. But let's remember what Elijah Moore was able to do, man. When he was drafted by the Jets in his rookie season, he was phenomenal, dude. He was a great wide receiver. He gets into a lot of strife or a conflict with his coaching staff. They end up benching him, never really using him. They trade him to the Browns. On the Browns, he still commands over 100 targets, but he was bad, right? It was a bad team. He didn't really do much with them. He didn't get a lot of valuable targets. He got a lot of like sideline, back shoulder throws. He got a lot of like short yardage out routes and stuff like that. So with this Bills offense, a much better situation, a much better quarterback. He is very talented. And keep in mind, it's a Bills team where there's not really a lot of proven talent, right? You have like Khalil Shakir, who's a great wide receiver, one of the better yards after the catch wide receivers. He's a slot guy. He's not a big name. He's not like an alpha. Keon Coleman, a lot of flaws to his game, but they're trying to make fetch happen. They're trying to make Keon Coleman happen, which means he's not yet there. He's not solidified as an option there yet, right? So I think his talent's going to win out. I think the fact you get him in the 20th plus round, he's like a end of your bench dart thrower. You draft him, you see what happens the first couple seasons. If he's bad, you banish him to the shadow realm. You drop him to the waiver wire, pick up somebody with more upside. And now we move on to the one quarterback on this list. In the 16th plus round, I'm getting more and more excited about this player the more the offseason goes on. It is Anthony Richardson, quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts. In 12 full games that Anthony Richardson has started in his first 2 seasons, he was in 5 games, he was a top 10 quarterback. And in 7 games, he was a top 15 quarterback. So essentially, he was in the top 15 in all 12 games. He was never worse than that. And he had a lot of like blow up 30-point games, right? In this offseason, he lost a lot of weight. He's been focusing on his fundamentals and his footwork. And Shane Steichen actually noticed it, and he gave him some praise recently in a press conference. He said, I think everything's cleaner right now. He's playing at a high level. He's making good decisions with the football, taking the completions when needed. So it's been really good to see. According to a lot of beat writers, he's essentially won the job back. In training camp, he's been making all types of really good throws. He looks a lot more accurate. Now, we know what Anthony Richardson's capable of doing as a fantasy quarterback. He's not the best passer, but the man just brings like 2 touchdown rushing upside every single game, man. The dude can break fantasy football. And if you're getting him in like the 15th plus round, dude, I think he's the guy that I'm going to be planting my flag on and draft him in all of my drafts. Last season, it was Jaden Daniels for me. I was picking him up everywhere. I won a couple leagues doing that. Every year, I like to find those late round guys. I will just say, like, without getting off topic from this video, this season really does feel like you want to get an elite guy early. You want to get like a Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Jaden Daniels. But in the later rounds, there are a couple guys who do have some pretty sneaky value. And Anthony Richardson is one of them, man. Now we move on to the running backs. We start in the 12th round with Bhayshul Tuten. This one is easy. I made a lot of videos about Tuten. You can find them on my channel. He joins this Jaguars backfield, which is occupied by Travis Etienne and Tank Bigsby. Now, Tank Bigsby is getting most of the run. He looks like the better running back in camp. He's like the 1A. He's getting most of the nice runs, the good work. So it looks like Bigsby is actually the 1A in this team. And Travis Etienne, they're trying to make him into that like third down back, that scat back, which leaves not a lot of room for Bhayshul Tuten to kind of take over this backfield. But this coaching staff's not really very high on Travis Etienne. They said earlier on in the offseason that, they're not really high on him. They don't really, they didn't draft him. It's a new regime. And with that in mind, they go after Bhayshul Tuten. They go after this guy in the draft. They said that going into the draft, he was somebody that they were really targeting. It wasn't a situation where they're like, all right, I guess we'll take him if he's still available. They went after him. They reached for him, essentially. He's a very explosive, very fast, tackle breaking, and somehow for his like undersize, he breaks a lot of tackles. He was 10th in yards after the catch per attempt and in breakaway percent in college, 8th in elusive rating according to PFF. He has the juice, bro, and he's now joining a team led by Liam Cohen, who was recently with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who recently just made Bucky Irving into a top 10 running back, right? I'm not saying Bhayshul Tuten is going to be like a Bucky Irving. That's kind of like a cheap cop-out. But if this team went after this man and they see they have future plans for him as a part of this offense, the fact that you're getting him in the 12th plus round, he might be that sneaky Devon Achane type of profile, man. He's the guy that I really love taking with a lot of upside later on. And then that brings us to the next player in the 13th round. It is Jaydon Blue. Very similar profile to Bhayshul Tuten. He ran a 4.38. He had 25% of the routes he ran in college, he was getting a target on them. So every 4 routes, he was getting a target. And he had elite receiving upside, bro. And in camp, he's been showing off, man. He's been showing his prowess. And I forgot to mention, he's a running back for the Dallas Cowboys. 215 carries in college is not great. But, 146 yards and 2 touchdowns in a playoff win versus Clemson. He showed that he's actually capable of doing some stuff on the ground. So, 5th round pick by Dallas is not great. That's not what we love to see. But the fact that this Dallas Cowboys team is currently being manned by Javonte Williams, Miles Sanders, and Phil Maffa. Never heard of Phil Maffa, but that is a running back room that I think Jaydon Blue can win over, man. I think he can end up being the core running back, maybe the scat back, but I think he can take some early down work as well. So if you're targeting some late round dart throws on, it's potentially going to be a good team, the Dallas Cowboys. At least they're going to be a good offense. And they're not going to be able to run the ball very well because their O-line is not very good this season. So it could be a case where Jaydon Blue's just on the field quite a lot, man. This team's going to be in shootouts. They're going to be potentially playing from behind, and maybe they're going to be using Jaydon Blue in that role. So next player on this list is Jaylen Wright, 14th round, running back to the Miami Dolphins. Now, keep in mind, dude, in 2024, the Dolphins traded a 2025 third round pick to move up to get Jaylen Wright. So it seemed like they had big plans for him. In 2024, he kind of failed to meet expectations. He was still kind of playing behind Achane, eventually took the role from Mostert, who they kind of phased out. Mostert was dealing with injuries all year, but he remained the backup. He didn't really take any work from Achane the way Mostert did. And, here's the thesis. So Achane, he's an undersized running back, really relies on his speed. He's already been dealing with some injuries in his season. So there's a potential here for Jaylen Wright to kind of take the early down work to try to keep Achane healthy. And if Achane were to go down, that would make Jaylen Wright a league-winning running back that you can get in the 14th round for a seemingly better offense. Now, to be fair, the Miami Dolphins offensive line is expected to be very bad. It's going to be a tough outing for Jaylen Wright, especially in those grinded out games where they're trying to find yardage or they're trying to find yards between the tackles. It might be tough for Jaylen Wright with such a bad O-line. Mike McDaniel he comes from the Shanahan system, which everybody loves to talk about in fantasy football. It's the 49ers, it's the Dolphins, it's Liam Cohen over with the Jaguars now, used to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, it's Sean McVay. All these offenses that are very friendly to running backs, very friendly to fantasy production in general. So Jaylen Wright, Dolphins, Mike McDaniel, you never know, man. In the 14th round, I think it's a very nice draft pick, which leads us to the next player. And the last running back that I have on this list, it's Roschon Johnson. This one's very, very simple. Roschon Johnson was essentially splitting the backfield with DeAndre Swift last season. Now, Roschon Johnson is kind of a boring player. He's not a very good running back, but he's good enough at everything he does, right? Now, 2.7 yards per carry and 0 breakaway runs is not very exciting, but as a between the tackles, short yardage guy, they're going to be using him a lot in the end zone, just like they did last season. DeAndre Swift really struggled in the end zone, so they ended up using Roschon Johnson in that role. And we think that this offense is going to be better. We think that Ben Johnson, coming from the Detroit Lions as their offensive coordinator, we think it's going to help improve the Bears, and that Caleb Williams should see us, take a step forward, that this whole offense is just going to be better with guys like Roma Dunze, DJ Moore. They draft Colston Loveland. We're expecting this Bears team to be better. DeAndre Swift is expected to be kind of the 1A and get a lot of the receiving work, but there's a chance that Roschon Johnson carves himself out a role on third downs as a good pass blocker, as a short yardage guy. And he's got essentially, I hate to say this, I hate to admit this about Roschon, he does have a 3-down skill set. He can run between the tackles, he can catch, and he can pass block. That's what you want out of a running back. Now we're going to end this list with Chig Okonkwo, 16th round Tennessee Titans tight end. He's the only tight end I have on this list because I didn't want to keep this video too long. I wanted to keep it at 10 names. He's 25 years old, and keep in mind the breakout age for tight ends is about 25 or 26. So he's right there on the cusp of a breakout. His usage last season really grew over the course of the season. When Mason Rudolph became the starting quarterback, Chig Okonkwo saw 10, 11, and 7 targets and was actually very serviceable. I had him in one of my leagues, and I really leaned on him. I moved away from Kraft to Okonkwo. As you can tell, I was down bad at tight end if those were my two options, but nevertheless, he played very well. He had a nice rapport with Mason Rudolph. Now you bring in Cam Ward. He's an aggressive downfield thrower. Brian Callahan, being the play caller, is a very competent offensive mind. And the Titans are honestly searching for pass catching options, bro. Let's keep in mind the pass catching options on the Titans at the moment are Calvin Ridley, who's getting up there in age. He's still pretty good. He's still decent, but he's getting up there in age. He's more of a deep threat guy. Alec Ayomanor, unproven rookie wide receiver. He was productive in college, but we haven't seen him do anything. And then Tyler Lockett, who, similar to Stephon Diggs, is somewhere between 80 to 98 years old. So these are unproven guys or old guys, a little bit past their prime. I think there's a chance that Okonkwo is a big part of this offense, man. I think he can emerge as a main short yardage option, somebody that this team potentially even manufactures touches around, bro. I can see it happening, man. Just we saw Okonkwo play really well, dude. There was one game last season, maybe I'll put up the game log behind me, where Chig Okonkwo had one catch for 70 yards and a touchdown. He broke a single target into a 70-yard touchdown. I think I even started him that week. So Okonkwo is capable of big plays down the field. He's capable of busting small passes into big plays. So I love Chig Okonkwo as my late round tight end option, which, I'm somebody who typically likes to punt the position. Not typically. I always punt tight end. I don't think I've ever drafted a tight end early in fantasy football. And yeah, those are the 10 names, man. I hope you guys liked this video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, like the video, man. Like it down below. Subscribe if you're new, if you want to catch more of this stuff. The whole offseason, we're going to be releasing stuff like this. I'm going to start doing live streams as well. That seems to be the blaze right now. Everybody's doing live streams. I might do some best ball live streams. If you guys are interested in that, let me know down below, and I will catch you guys in the next video.